Look, darling, the lion.
It's Fluffy.
Yes, and very strong.
Like Duke.
In his own way, yes.
I did not know he was watching. The nursery was warm and quiet, firelight dancing across the walls as I sat with young Master Oliver on my lap. He was 6 years old, with dark curly hair and eyes that saw nothing, eyes that had been blind since birth, leaving him in a world of darkness that his family could not seem to accept. "What does a lion look like, Miss Rosalind?" he asked, his small fingers tracing the raised illustrations I had created for him. Pages where the pictures were not painted but sculpted in wax and cloth, so he could feel them with his hands. "A lion is powerful and proud," I said, guiding his fingers over the manner I had crafted. "Feel this. This is his manner, like a crown of fur around his face. It makes him look fierce and magnificent. Does he look scary? He can be scary. But he is also beautiful. Many things that seem frightening are also beautiful, if you understand them." Oliver laughed. A sound I had come to treasure over the 3 months I had been secretly visiting him. "I wish I could see a lion someday. Perhaps you will. In your own way." I kissed the top of his head. "There are many ways to see, Oliver. Your fingers see shapes. Your ears see sounds. Your heart sees the truth of people. That is a kind of sight most people never develop. Is that why you come to visit me? Because you see me differently? I come because you are wonderful company. And because everyone deserves to have someone who believes in them." I did not hear the door open. I did not know that the Duke of Ashworth, Oliver's father, my employer, the stern and distant man who ran this household with iron efficiency, was standing in the doorway, watching us. I only knew that I loved this child, this forgotten boy who had been hidden away in the nursery wing because his blindness was considered shameful. I had stumbled upon him by accident 3 months ago, heard him crying alone in the dark, and had been unable to walk away. So I had come back. Night after night, I had slipped away from my duties as a governess to his 2-sighted sisters and made my way to Oliver's lonely nursery. I had created books he could touch, games he could play, a world he could explore without needing eyes. I had done it in secret because I knew his father did not approve. The Duke had made clear that Oliver was to be kept out of sight, managed by nurses who were paid to keep him quiet and contained. He had never once visited his own son. Until tonight. "Miss Crawford." The voice came from the doorway, deep, cold, the voice of a man who expected immediate obedience. I froze. Oliver clutched my hand. "Who is that?" "It is your father," I whispered. "The Duke." The boy's face changed, a mixture of fear and longing that broke my heart. He had spoken of his father often, asking questions I could not answer. Why did his father never visit? Why did his father never speak to him? Did his father hate him because he was blind? I had not known what to say. Now, watching the Duke step into the firelight, I still did not know. "Miss Crawford," he repeated. "You are supposed to be with my daughters. They are asleep, Your Grace. I came to check on Oliver." "To check on him? You have been here every night for 3 months. You have created an entire library of books he can feel with his fingers. You have spent hours teaching him things his nurses have never bothered to teach." His voice was hard to read. "You call that checking on him?" I felt my face flush with heat. "I apologize if I have overstepped." I did not ask for an apology. I asked for an explanation. I looked at Oliver, this beautiful, intelligent, lonely child who deserved so much more than the life he had been given. "He was alone," I said quietly. "He was crying in the dark, and no one came. So I came. And I kept coming because I hesitated. Because he deserves to be seen. Even if he cannot see." The Duke was silent for a long moment. Then he did something I did not expect. He walked across the room, knelt beside the chair where I sat with Oliver, and reached out to touch his son's face. "Oliver," he said, his voice rough. "I am your father." The boy's lip trembled. "I know. Miss Rosalind told me." "She has told you many things, it seems." The Duke looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that had not been there before. Something raw and painful and desperately searching. "She has given you what I should have given you all along. Your Grace. Do not speak." He stood abruptly. "Come to my study when you have finished here. We need to talk." He left without another word. And I sat in the firelit nursery, holding a blind child who was crying tears of confusion, wondering what I had done. I went to the Duke's study an hour later. My hands were trembling as I knocked on the heavy oak door, my mind racing with possibilities. He was going to dismiss me. He was going to punish me for my presumption. He was going to take Oliver away from me. Enter. I stepped into the study, a room I had never seen before. It was grand and imposing, filled with books and papers and all the trappings of power. The Duke sat behind his desk, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring into the fire. Close the door. I did as he asked, then stood waiting for the blow to fall. You have been employed in this household for 8 months, he said, not looking at me. In that time, you have educated my daughters far beyond what I expected. Their music, their languages, their understanding of the world. All vastly improved. Thank you, Your Grace. I did not bring you here to receive thanks. He finally turned to face me. I brought you here to ask why. Why I educated your daughters. Why you educated my son. In secret. Without permission. Without pay. His eyes held mine. Why you spent months creating books for a child no one asked you to care for. I thought about lying. I thought about giving him some acceptable excuse, Christian charity, professional duty, simple kindness. But something in his eyes told me he would know if I lied. Because he was invisible, I said quietly. Because everyone in this household treated him as though he did not exist. Because when I found him crying alone in the dark, I saw myself. Yourself? I grew up poor, Your Grace. The daughter of a country vicar who died when I was 12. I know what it feels like to be overlooked, to be treated as though your existence is an inconvenience. I lifted my chin. Oliver is not an inconvenience. He is a brilliant, curious, wonderful child who happens to be blind. And he deserves better than to be hidden away like a shameful secret. The Duke set down his whiskey glass. You are bold. I am honest. You asked me a question. I answered it. Most employees would not speak to me this way. Most employees would not have spent 3 months creating tactile books for a forgotten child. I am not most employees. Something shifted in his expression. Something that looked almost like respect. No. You are not. He stood and moved toward me. I have failed my son, Miss Crawford. I have failed him since the day he was born, and I have been too much of a coward to admit it. I did not know what to say. His mother died giving birth to him. Did you know that? No, Your Grace. She was the love of my life. And she died, and he lived, and I have never been able to separate those two facts. His voice cracked. Every time I looked at him, I saw her death. Every time I heard him cry, I heard her last breath. So I stayed away. I told myself I was protecting him from my grief, but the truth is I was protecting myself. Your Grace. I watched you tonight. In the nursery. He was very close now, close enough that I could see the pain in his eyes. I watched you hold my son and teach him about lions. I watched you kiss his head and tell him that everyone deserves someone who believes in them. And I realized that you have given him more love in 3 months than I have given him in 6 years. I did not mean to overstep. You did not overstep. You showed me what I should have been doing all along. He reached out and took my hand. You showed me that my son is not a tragedy to be hidden. He is a miracle to be celebrated. I felt tears streaming down my face. What do you want from me, Your Grace? I want you to continue what you have started. I want you to be Oliver's governess officially, openly. I want you to teach him everything you have been teaching him in secret. Is that all? He was silent for a moment. No, that is not all. His grip on my hand tightened. I want you to marry me. I stared at him. Marry you? Yes. You cannot be serious. I am entirely serious. His eyes held mine. I have watched you for 8 months, Miss Crawford. I have watched you transform my daughters from sullen, unhappy children into curious, engaged young women. I have watched you manage my household with grace and efficiency. I have watched you navigate the petty cruelties of servants who resented taking orders from a governess. That does not mean. And tonight, I watched you love my son. The son I could not bring myself to love. His voice broke. You saw what I could not see. You did what I could not do. You are everything I have been searching for without knowing I was searching. Your Grace, you do not even know me. I know that you are kind. I know that you are brave. I know that you would rather spend your nights creating books for a blind child than enjoying the pleasures available to you in this household. He released my hand and stepped back. I know that when I watch you with Oliver, I feel something I have not felt since my wife died. What do you feel? Hope. The word seemed to cost him something. Hope that perhaps I can be a better man. A better father. Hope that it is not too late to undo the damage I have done. I did not know what to say. My mind was racing, trying to process what was happening. This is madness. Perhaps. But it is the kind of madness that leads to something good. He moved to his desk and picked up a small box. I am not asking you to love me. I am not asking for anything except a chance. A chance to prove that I can change. A chance to give Oliver the family he deserves. And what do I receive in return? A title. A fortune. The ability to care for Oliver openly, without sneaking through the halls at night. He paused. And perhaps, in time, something more. If you are willing. I looked at this man, this complicated, broken, desperate man who had ignored his son for 6 years and was now offering me everything to make it right. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. He set the box down. I will wait for your answer. I did not sleep that night. I lay in my small bed in the governess's quarters, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what had happened. The Duke of Ashworth, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in England, had asked me to marry him. Me. A nobody. A vicar's daughter with no fortune and no connections. A woman who had spent 8 months caring for his children while he barely noticed I existed. And now he wanted me to be his duchess. Because I loved his son. It was madness. Complete and utter madness. The kind of thing that happened in novels, not in real life. The kind of proposal that came with strings attached, with disappointments waiting in the wings. And yet I could not stop thinking about the way he had looked at me. The pain in his eyes when he spoke of his wife, his son, his failures. The hope that had flickered to life when he watched me with Oliver. He was not offering me a fairy tale. He was offering me a chance to help him become the man he wanted to be. Was that enough? I did not know. But I knew I could not walk away from Oliver. I could not abandon him to the lonely existence he had known before I found him. I could not pretend that I had not seen the brilliant, loving child hiding behind those sightless eyes. If marrying his father was the price of staying in Oliver's life, perhaps it was a price I was willing to pay. I gave him my answer the next evening. Yes. The Duke Charles, I would have to learn to call him, stared at me as though he had not expected me to accept. Yes. Yes, I will marry you. I held up my hand before he could respond. But I have conditions. Name them. First, Oliver is to be treated as a full member of this family. No more hiding him away. No more pretending he does not exist. He will eat meals with us, join in family activities, be introduced to society as your son and heir. He cannot be my heir. He is blind. He can be your heir in every way that matters. The title can pass to his sister's children if necessary, but he will not be treated as less than. That is my first condition. Something shifted in his expression. Agreed. What else? Second, I will continue to oversee his education. I know his needs better than anyone else. I will work with physicians and specialists to ensure he has every opportunity to thrive. Agreed. Third. I hesitated. Third, I will not share your bed until I choose to. This marriage may have begun as a practical arrangement, but if it is to become something more, it will be on my terms. He was quiet for a long moment. You are asking for a great deal. I am offering a great deal in return. A wife who will care for your children, manage your household, and help you become the father Oliver deserves. I met his eyes. That is worth more than a title, Your Grace. Charles. If we are to be married, you should call me Charles. Charles. The name felt strange on my tongue. Do we have an agreement? He extended his hand. We have an agreement, Rosalind. The wedding took place 3 weeks later. It was a small ceremony, just family and a few close friends. Charles had wanted something grand, but I had insisted on simplicity. I was not marrying him for the spectacle. I was marrying him for Oliver. And for something else I was not ready to name. Oliver stood beside us at the altar, his small hand in mine. He had been nervous about the wedding, worried that it would change things between us, that I would forget about him once I became a duchess. I will never forget you, I had promised him. You are the reason I am doing this. You are the reason for everything. But you will have other responsibilities now. And you will be my most important responsibility. Always. He had hugged me then, his thin arms wrapping around my neck, his face buried against my shoulder. I love you, Miss Rosalind. I love you too, Oliver. More than you will ever know. Now, as I stood before the priest and promised to love, honor, and cherish Charles for the rest of my life, I felt Oliver's hand in mine. I felt the weight of the commitment I was making, not just to a man I barely knew, but to a child who needed me desperately. "I do," I said, when the priest asked the question. And I meant it. The first months of marriage were complicated. Charles was not an easy man to know. He was reserved, formal, accustomed to keeping his emotions locked away behind walls that had been building for years. He treated me with respect and courtesy, but there was always a distance between us, a space I did not know how to cross. But with Oliver, everything was different. I watched Charles learn to be a father. I watched him sit with Oliver in the nursery, listening as his son explored the tactile books I had created. I watched him ask questions, awkward, uncertain questions about what Oliver could hear and feel and understand. I watched him struggle to communicate with a child he had ignored for so long. It was painful to witness. But it was also beautiful. He asked me about lions today, Charles told me one evening, as we sat together in the drawing room. He wanted to know if I had ever seen a real one. "What did you tell him?" I told him about the lions at the Tower of London, about their roars and their golden eyes and the way they paced in their cages. He paused. I told him I would take him to see them. To hear them, I mean. That would make him very happy. Would it? He looked at me with something like wonder. "I never know what will make him happy. You always seem to know." I listened to him. "That is all. That is not all. You see him." He reached out and took my hand. "You taught me to see him too." I felt tears prick at my eyes. "He has always been worth seeing. You just needed to look." The transformation of Oliver's life was remarkable. Within months, he had gone from a lonely, isolated child to a vibrant member of the household. He ate meals with the family, joined in conversations, played games with his sisters that I had adapted for his abilities. He learned to navigate the house by sound and touch, developing a mental map that impressed everyone who witnessed it. And Charles became the father Oliver had always needed. He spent hours with his son, reading to him, talking with him, learning about the world through Oliver's unique perspective. He hired specialists to work with Oliver's other senses, musicians to teach him piano, tutors who understood how to educate a blind child. "You have changed everything," he told me one night, as we walked through the gardens together. "I do not know how to thank you. You do not need to thank me. Watching Oliver thrive is thanks enough. But I want to thank you. I want you to know that what you have done, what you are doing, it matters. It matters more than anything." He stopped walking and turned to face me. "I am falling in love with you, Rosalind." I stared at him. "Charles, I know you did not marry me for love. I know this arrangement was practical, designed to give Oliver the mother he needed. But somewhere along the way," he struggled for words. "Somewhere along the way, it became more than practical for me." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I watch you with Oliver and I feel things I did not know I could still feel. I am saying that when you laugh, I want to hear that sound forever. I am saying that when you touch my hand, I never want you to let go. You hardly know me. I know everything that matters. I know your kindness, your courage, your refusal to accept the world as it is when it should be better." He cupped my face in his hands. "I know that you are the best thing that has ever happened to my son. And I am beginning to believe you are the best thing that has ever happened to me." I felt tears streaming down my face. I did not expect this. Neither did I. But here we are. He kissed my forehead gently. "I am not asking for anything you are not ready to give. I simply wanted you to know the truth. The truth is that I am beginning to feel the same way." His eyes widened. "You are. I watched you learn to love Oliver. I watched you become the father he needed. And somewhere along the way," I smiled through my tears. "Somewhere along the way, I started to love you too." He kissed me, then really kissed me, for the first time since our wedding. And I kissed him back, feeling something I had not expected to feel when I agreed to this arrangement. Joy. Our love grew slowly, like a plant that needed time and care to flourish. There were difficult moments, times when Charles retreated into his grief, when the memory of his first wife overwhelmed him. Times when I wondered if I would ever truly have his heart, or if I would always be competing with a ghost. But there were also beautiful moments. Nights spent talking by the fire. Days spent exploring the estate with Oliver between us. Quiet breakfasts where we shared our thoughts and dreams. We had more children in time, 2 sons who could see, though we never treated them differently than Oliver. Charles had learned his lesson well. He knew now that every child was a miracle, regardless of their abilities. You saved us, he told me one evening, as we watched all 4 children playing together in the garden. Oliver was teaching his brothers how to identify plants by smell and texture. His sisters were helping him navigate a new game they had invented. I did not save you. I simply saw what was already there. That is saving. Seeing what others cannot see, believing what others refuse to believe. He pulled me close. You saw Oliver when I could not. You saw me when I was lost in grief. You saw a family where there had only been broken pieces. I saw love. It was always there, waiting to be found. And you found it. He kissed my temple. You found us. 20 years after I first discovered Oliver crying alone in the dark, I sat in the nursery, the same nursery where everything had begun, and watched my grandson explore one of the tactile books I had created so long ago. He was not blind, this child. But Oliver had insisted that all children in our family learn to experience the world through multiple senses. It makes them better people, he said. It teaches them that there are many ways to understand the world. Oliver was a man now, 26 years old, married to a wonderful woman who loved him completely, father to this beautiful boy who bore his name. He had become a scholar, writing books about education for blind children that were read throughout England. He had changed countless lives, just as his life had been changed. Grandmother, little Oliver said, looking up from the book. What does a lion look like? I smiled, remembering. A lion is powerful and proud. Feel this. This is his manner, like a crown of fur around his face. Does he look scary? He can be scary. But he is also beautiful. Many things that seem frightening are also beautiful, if you understand them. The door opened, and Charles walked in, older now, his hair silver, but his eyes still holding the warmth that had grown over 2 decades of love. There you are, he said. I should have known you would be telling lion stories. It is tradition. So it is. He knelt beside us, his hand finding mine automatically. Do you know how many times I have heard this story? You never tire of it. No. I never do. He kissed my cheek. Because every time you tell it, I remember the night I first heard it. The night I watched you love my son. The night I realized I wanted to spend the rest of my life with you. You asked me to marry you that night. Best decision I ever made. He smiled. Second only to walking into that nursery in the first place. Many years later, when I was an old woman with silver hair and a lifetime of memories, my great-granddaughter asked me to tell her a story. Tell me about great-grandfather Oliver. Tell me about the nursery. I smiled, remembering. I was a governess in this house. My job was to teach the Duke's daughters, but one night, I heard crying from a room I had never entered. I followed the sound and found a little boy blind since birth, all alone in the dark. That was great-grandfather. Yes. He was 6 years old, and no one came to see him. No one thought he was worth seeing. I took her hand. But I saw him. I saw how brilliant he was, how curious, how full of love. So I came back. Night after night, I snuck into his nursery and taught him about the world. And the Duke found out. He did. He watched me one night, hiding in the doorway. He saw me holding his son, teaching him about lions, loving him the way a mother loves a child. What did he do? He asked me to marry him. That very night. I smiled at the memory. He said he had watched me give his son what he should have given him all along. He said he wanted me to help him become a better father, a better man. Did you say yes? I said yes. And we built a life together, the Duke, and Oliver, and me. We turned this house from a place of grief into a place of joy. We raised children who understood that everyone deserves to be seen, regardless of their abilities. Is that why we learn to read with our fingers? Even though we can see. That is why. Because your great-grandfather taught us that there are many ways to understand the world. And all of them are valuable. She hugged me tight. And I held her close, in the nursery where everything had